Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel and welcome to the first episode of Realistify in this YouTube channel. And by Realistify, I mean turning pencil drawings or digital drawings into a kind of realistic using Photoshop. This idea was originated from production and this was my first trial. And whatever you'll be seeing in this video today will be my second trial, and I'll be working on 3 drawings, and I hope you guys watch this video to the end and let's get right into it. Okay guys, I'm totally sorry for recording the audio after doing the work, because the audio for the screen recording wasn't good. So this will be the first picture I'll be working on, Tom and Jerry. So let's go. I'll be using this bear, the skin of this bear, as the main body of the 2 characters, Tom and Jerry. So I cut it out, then joined 2 of them together and warped it. I warped it a little bit, then painted it in. So I had to use airbrush to make the skin look more airy, not flat. Then I used hue and saturation to change the color to what I want it to be. So I have to use the skin again for the arm, then warped it, then painted it in back. So I did the same thing to the other arm, used airbrush to make it more airy. So then did the same thing to the legs, used hue and saturation to change the color. Also the tail, same thing exactly. Warp, bring in the skin, warp it, change the color using your saturation. Also the ends. Also I used exposure to draw back some shadows so as to make it look like fingers. But still I used hue and saturation to change the color. Like that. I did the same thing to the other and I used exposure for the shadows, like contact shadows between the waist and the hand. So I continued with the legs too. Exposure for the shadows between the toes. Then I had to do the head. The head wasn't that easy, but I tried what I can. Not bad for second try. So I didn't forget to put the ear, using the airbrush, putting back some hairs. Then painted it using your saturation, change the color using your saturation, painted in the light blue. Sorry. Then I brought in a PNG image of an eye. I used the airbrush around the edges to make it look in there. Then used exposure for the shadows. Then I had to do the nose, brought in the skin, changed the color into light blue for using hue and saturation, dropped in some shadows using exposure. Then I brought in a cat mouth to fill in there. It kind of worked, so I had no other option than to continue like that. Then I had to put the chin, do it in, dropped in some shadows, then change the color using hue and saturation. Also some shadows using exposure. Then the ear. Took it from another cat actually. So I removed the hair from another cat picture, then changed the color using ear saturation again. For the pointed nose, I used a leather jacket texture. Kind of funny. So I used exposure and ear saturation for the exposure side. Then I added exposure for the shadow. Then we are kind of done for Tom. Then we have to move to Jerry. I used the same skin, bare skin. Then I started using exposure for the shadows to make it look more 3D. Also, the cheese was not really realistic. It's not really realistic actually after when I was done with it, but I tried my best, and you can know it's cheese actually. So I borrowed Tom's head for Jerry because it was taking me too long while doing this. Like by this time it was like 2.5 hours, so I had to borrow Tom's head, can't make Jerry's head from the beginning. So I changed the color using ear saturation, and it's kind of matched after transforming it a little bit with scale and a little bit of warping, and it looks kind of cool. So I had to continue it. Then the ear, I kind of transformed the ear to make it look more like Tom's. Then I'm done. So I had to make the scene. It kind of looks like Tom and Jerry went for a photo shoot, but I should have made the scene look like a sitting room or something. You know, I like the way they jump around in the movies. But this was my idea. Then I added lights at both sides, and also made it reflect on both of them using hue and saturation to make the highlights, to make it look like the lights are reflecting on them, and it looks kind of cool. So I'm done. I matched the layers together, then used camera raw filter to blend everything in, and voila, and that's it for Tom and Jerry. Okay, let's move to the next one. This will be my next work. It's a robot, as you can see, so it's not airy, so the edge will be kind of flat. So I used another way. I didn't paint it in. I first dropped in the picture, as you can see, for reference and accuracy. Then I dropped in a layer using kind of gray color, then cut it out using the image as reference, cutting different parts into different layers. So I did basically that to all the parts, all the body of the robot from head to toe, using different colors to make it less confusing. So as you can see, I used different colors. So that's everything. So I started dropping in different textures into each layers, clipping the texture and the layer together using Alt. In between the texture and the layer, press Alt, then move in between the layer and the texture, then click. It will clip the layer and the texture together. So I did basically that, then warped the layer, and it made it look more 3D. Also, as you can see, I did that to the ear too. Also, I had to tidy up the edges of the ear. Maybe, I don't know, this ear, I think. So I did that, matched it together, more textures. For the neck, warped it a little bit. this work wasn't a little bit, but then I added shadows, and as you can see, it looks more realistic. Then I did the chest, kind of increased the speed here, so I'm sorry for that. So I did the chest using the same technique, warped it a little bit to look more 3D. Then I'm doing the left arm. I warped the texture, painted in some textures using pen tool and brush. It wasn't that accurate, wasn't that great, but not bad for a second try, I guess. So I used the exposure also to make the shadows. I guess the light is coming from the left side of the robot, from my right side. So I had to make the shadow of all the body of the robot coming from the robot's left side, my right side. Then I had to move downwards, continue with the arms. Painted in some more depth, more texture using pen tool and brush. As you can see, basically the main color, the most same color in the body of this robot is white and black. So it made it easier. Then some shadows using exposure. Then I did the hand. I have to fast the side actually. It's the same technique I've been using. Dropped in the texture, warp it a little bit, then put exposure use exposure for the shadows. Then I copied the hand to the other side. Now I'm doing the kind of hip. I don't know, hip, yeah, probably. So now the thigh. Drop the texture, warp it a little bit to make it look 3D. The main reason why we are warping these textures are to make it look 3D, not flat. In some cases we might not have to warp these textures, but most cases you have to. So as you can see, I copied the arm to the other side, then had to blend the texture and the shadows, because the shadow from the left side of the robot is not same as the right side, so I had to blend it in. Then I went downwards to the robot leg, added texture, warped it a little bit, used the exposure for the shadows. And when you are working, don't forget to label all your texture, all your layers, because in projects like this your layers might get jammed together. You might not know which layer is which. So as you can see, I named all the layers and grouped them together: waist, thigh, left arm, right arm. As you can see, now I'm done with the robot. Now I made the scene kind of like the first one I made. I was thinking putting it inside a spaceship, but I had no time. I'm very sorry for that, but I will surely do it. And I don't know, I will do it. I will. Well, so I'm done with the robot. As you can see, I also used exposure. So that's it. Turned out kind of cool. Okay, let's move to the next one. I guess this is a Pokemon. I'm not sure, but I guess this is a Pokemon. So we are working on, let me just name it Pokemon next. So I used this kind of texture. It's actually a leather texture. So I did basically the same thing. Brought in the texture, warped it a little bit to different layers in different parts of this Pokemon. Warped it a little bit, kind of a lot. I don't know. Sometimes a lot to make it look 3D, like I said the other time. So I painted in the textures. Firstly, I inverted the layers, then I painted it back using white brush. So I painted the arms, the main body, the head in where needed.
And the tones, the big one.
And the legs, the other arm. Then I started tidying. I started cleaning it up, then added some shadows. And so as you can see, some of the painting, some of the layers, some of the textures are not that clean. So sometimes I'll just have to clean it up later because of the white. I should have used maybe like a black background, but I used white, so it didn't show me the complete texture, it didn't let me see like how clean what I'm doing is. So I continue using painting texture, shadows, using exposure, the leg, the arm, shadow using exposure, the tail. Then it's about time I started making the front. I first brought in this crocodile texture, but it doesn't look great. I warped, it doesn't look great. So I brought another picture of a crocodile, like the back of a crocodile. I guess this is the back. So I worked with it a little bit, as you can see, trying to make it look like it's in there. Worked it.
And the tones, the big one.
Then I realized it won't work because it's kind of too hard for being at the front. It should have been like the main body. So I had to use this snake skin, and it looks kind of okay. So I continued with it. And then boom, I did everything. It's like maybe it took me 30 minutes to finish it. So I started putting shadows in between using exposure. Then boom, I'm done with it. Then the shadow to cover everything, blend everything together. Then I started noticing that the textures are having some holes, like are not well painted in. Then I made it better. Then I used the lion teeth to make the claws, because why not? And I erased out the parts not needed, used shadows to blend it in. Then I changed the main body, the color of the main body to red, and the front parts I changed it to kind of wine, I guess. So I added more shadows to make the front part and the main body blend in together. Then I added the eyes. I painted the eyes in. Then I used shadows to make it look in there. Then increase the brightness of the eyes. Then I cleaned it up, make it better. Then I used the same lion teeth for the on, I guess. I think it's the Pokemon's on. Then it's time to make the antenna. Then I used texture, kind of a concrete texture to make the antenna. Then the nose, I just dropped in 2 dots, painted 2 dots, just beveled it. Then I dropped in a bat image for the wings. Firstly, I was using warp, then I was using warp, but it doesn't feel there, it doesn't feel like okay. So I used Liquify and it looks okay to me. So I used Liquify and copied the same wing to the other side, added more shadows, then changed the color of the wings to match the color of the Pokemon. Then it's about time I started making the scene. And I painted in the ground, made it look like a scene, like the ones I've been making before. Dropped in a light, then another to the other side, top left. Dropped in a shadow. So to make the Pokemon look lit up, I added exposure, and as you can see, I'm done with it. I added another orange light to the top left, and then put the exposure on the Pokemon. Then I matched together the layers, then used camera raw filter to blend everything together for final result. You can see, and yeah, the camera raw filter, using some clarity, exposure. The main reason why we use camera raw filter is like blending it in. It works as the same as what Lightroom does. It's like the same as what Lightroom does for inside Photoshop. So that's it for the Pokemon. Turned out kind of cool, although not perfect. And that's it, guys. Turned out kind of cool, although not perfect, but not bad for a second try. And thanks for watching. Like and comment down below. I already have a plan for my next video, which will be more educating and really cool. I'll be explaining more about how I do this stuff. Subscribe to this channel and click the notification button, the bell button beside it, to get notified when my next video is out. And thanks for watching.